Three sides to every tale we tell. The truth is here, it's ringing bells.
Welcome to Deep Dive Listen. Today we're going to be diving into Tools of Titans by Timothy Ferriss.
Oh, yeah, I love that book.
It's really a fascinating read. It's packed with interviews with all sorts of successful people, right? Like athletes, entrepreneurs, investors.
Yeah, you name it. He's got him in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And each chapter is like a little mini masterclass. I mean, you get these insights into their personal philosophies, their daily routines, even like the tools and tactics that help them thrive.
It's true. It's like he really gets into the nitty-gritty,
Yeah.
you know, doesn't just scratch the surface. You really get to see what makes these people tick.
Right. And it's so interesting because you've got this incredible diversity of backgrounds. You wouldn't necessarily expect to find like common threads running through their stories.
Yeah, that's what's so cool about it, though, right? You've got all these titans at the top of their game in completely different fields.
And yet
there are these surprising patterns and connections in how they approach life, how they think about success.
So it's almost like Ferriss is kind of crack the code to success. But the code is more about like mindset and principles than just specific actions, right?
Exactly. He talks about learning the macro from the micro, which is, it's a fancy way of saying you can extract these like universal principles from specific examples.
Right. So it's not just a bunch of random tips. It's like we're uncovering these underlying principles that actually drive success.
Yeah, exactly. It's like finding these hidden gems of wisdom that you can apply across like any domain.
I love that. Okay, now I got to ask you about one of Ferriss's thought experiments that really caught my eye, the 10-year goals in 6 months idea. What's the deal with that?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a classic Ferriss right there. He loves to make you think differently. Basically, the idea is to imagine you only have 6 months to achieve what you normally think would take you 10 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a real mind bender. But it forces you to like break free from your conventional thinking and consider some bold actions that you might not have even entertained before.
It's like, wait a minute, maybe I actually can achieve that crazy dream if I just approach it with a totally different time frame, like a bolder mindset.
Exactly. It's all about shifting your perspective and realizing you probably have way more agency than you think you do.
So true. Okay, let's talk about some of the specific habits and tools that we see popping up in these interviews. I was blown away by how many of these titans swear by listening to the same song on repeat for focus.
Yeah, that one always gets me too. It sounds so weird, but when you think about it, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, like how does that even work?
Well, repetitive music can actually drown out distractions and create a sense of mental flow. It's like building this like sonic cocoon that helps you just stay in the zone.
It's like almost like white noise.
Yeah.
But with a beat.
Yeah, exactly. And then another one that comes up a lot is the idea of spec work. You know, doing projects for free to build your skills and your portfolio.
Okay, that's interesting. Isn't that a little counterintuitive? Like, why work for free?
Well, a lot of successful people used spec work to like break into their field or to showcase their abilities when they didn't have a lot of experience. It shows initiative, it shows passion, and it shows a willingness to go the extra mile.
Right, so you're basically creating opportunities for yourself that might not have existed otherwise.
Exactly. And, you know, you're getting experience, which is valuable in itself. Now, another thing that these titans all seem to have in common is that they're not afraid of failing, are they?
No, not at all. They almost seem to, like, embrace it.
Yeah.
Like it's just a temporary setback.
Exactly. They see failure as non-durable, like a bump in the road, not a dead end, it's a really powerful mindset shift, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like instead of letting fear of failure hold you back, they're using it as a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
And they're really good at turning perceived weaknesses into strengths too, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, like take Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example.
Oh, yes, the Governor.
He could have easily seen his accent as a disadvantage in Hollywood, but instead he totally embraced it and it became part of his like iconic persona.
I mean, who doesn't love that accent?
Right. And Ferriss encourages us all to do the same, you know. Find what makes you unique, embrace it, and use it as a superpower.
I love that. He actually talks about Shay Carl, who went from like manual laborer to YouTube star to co-founding a billion-dollar company. Talk about an unconventional path.
Right. It really shows you that you don't have to fit the mold to achieve great things.
Okay, so let's talk about health and performance for a bit, because Tools of Titans is absolutely packed with fascinating insights in this area.
Oh, yeah, for sure. One of the folks Ferriss talks to is Dom D'Agostino. He's a researcher who's really deep into the world of like ketogenic diets and fasting.
Okay, so before we go any further, can you maybe explain what a ketogenic diet is for those who might not be familiar?
Yeah, absolutely. It's basically a way of eating where you drastically reduce carbs and replace them with healthy fats.
Okay, interesting. And so this shifts your body's metabolism to burn fat for fuel instead of glucose.
Exactly. And this can have all sorts of benefits, for weight loss, energy levels, even for some pretty serious health challenges. And D'Agostino, he's not just theorizing about this stuff, he actually lives it. He's got a very specific daily regimen.
Okay, like what?
Well, for example, he always has a bowl of broccoli soup before dinner.
Broccoli soup, huh? Interesting. Why?
He says it helps him reduce his overall food intake, and then for dinner, he'll have a giant salad with like healthy fats and protein.
So like a really big salad.
Oh, yeah, like a huge salad. And then he's also really into exogenous ketones.
Okay, exogenous ketones, now that's a new one for me. What are those?
Basically, there's supplements that can give your body that extra boost of energy, even if you're not strictly on a keto diet.
Interesting. So it's like a shortcut to ketosis.
You could say that. He believes they can be beneficial for all sorts of things. And then there's his 5-point plan for tackling a late-stage health crisis.
Whoa, that sounds intense.
It is. It's a pretty radical approach, but it involves rapidly switching to a ketogenic diet, fasting, and a bunch of other strategies, all aimed at addressing a serious health situation head on, being proactive.
Right. Of course, this is all stuff that you should be discussing with a medical professional, not just trying on your own.
Absolutely. You got to be careful with these things. Now, another health enthusiast that Ferriss interviews is Wim Hof, the Iceman.
Oh, the Iceman. Yeah, I've heard of him. Does some pretty crazy stuff with cold exposure, right?
He does. But, there's actually a lot of science backing up the benefits of cold exposure. It can boost your immune system, help with fat loss, and even elevate your mood. Did you know that they used to prescribe cold baths for mental health? Like, even Van Gogh was doing that back in the day.
Wow. I had no idea. That's wild. And then you've got Peter Attia, the longevity researcher who spent 3 years in nutritional ketosis.
Yeah, he's really pushing the boundaries of health and longevity. And what's fascinating is that even while he was in ketosis, he was still able to perform at a high level in really demanding physical activities.
That's impressive. Okay, so we've covered some pretty intense health hacks here. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about the mental side of success. What are some of the key insights that Ferriss uncovers in that area?
Well, he interviews Mark Andreessen, the venture capitalist, and he has some really interesting perspectives on building successful businesses.
Oh, yeah, Andreessen. I remember reading about his raise prices billboard idea. What was that all about?
That's so classic Andreessen, right? He basically believes that way too many businesses, especially startups, undervalue what they offer. And he argues that raising prices can actually attract a better clientele. It signals higher value.
So it's like know your worth, right? Don't be afraid to charge what you're worth.
Exactly. And it's a real challenge to that whole undercharging to gain market share. He's like, no, focus on delivering exceptional value and then the price will reflect that.
Right, right. And he's not a big fan of the whole fail fast mantra either, is he?
Nope, not at all. He thinks that while iteration and experimentation are important, the real focus should be on getting things right.
So slow down, maybe. Focus on building a solid foundation first.
Yeah, exactly. And he's pushing back against that whole startup culture of constantly pivoting and, rapid prototyping. Sometimes, he says, you just got to slow down and be meticulous.
Makes sense.
Oh.
Okay, and let's bring back Arnold Schwarzenegger one more time. He's not just muscles in movies, right?
Oh, no, he's a smart dude.
Yeah.
He's a savvy businessman and investor. Before he even got into acting, he made sure to build a solid financial foundation by investing in real estate.
Smart move.
Yeah.
That must have given him a lot of freedom to pursue his passions without that pressure of needing to make money right away.
Totally. And speaking of, mental well-being, he's a huge advocate for transcendental meditation.
Really? He meditates?
Twice a day. He says it helps him manage all that anxiety and stress, which, is inevitable when you're in such a high-pressure field.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, looks like we're just about out of time for this part of our deep dive.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go, I want to leave our listeners with something to ponder. What's the biggest takeaway so far, would you say?
Well, I think it's that success is not this, one-size-fits-all formula. It really is multifaceted. It's not just about achieving these external goals. It's about building resilience, prioritizing your health and well-being, and even building strong relationships.
And maybe most importantly, it's about defining what success actually means to you.
Exactly. And finding a path that really aligns with your unique strengths and your values.
Well said.
And there's so much more to uncover in the next part of our deep dive.
I can't wait. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time. One of the things that really jumped out at me when I was reading Tools of Titans was how much these high achievers, how much emphasis they put on productivity and creative practices. It's like they've got this knack for just getting stuff done.
Yeah, it's true. They really seem to have figured out how to hack the system, I guess you could say, make the most of their time, their energy.
Totally. And they have some pretty interesting methods, too. Like, take Tony Robbins, for instance, the motivational speaker.
Oh, yeah, Tony Robbins, sure.
He's really big on this idea of priming, his morning routine. He believes that by changing your physiology rapidly, like right when you wake up, that you can really set a positive tone for the whole day.
So what does that look like in practice? Is it like cold showers, jumping jacks, chanting affirmations?
All of the above, seriously.
Yep.
Cold plunges, breathing exercises, even expressing gratitude. He's all about, activating the nervous system, increasing blood flow, getting those endorphins pumping.
Okay, so that's pretty hardcore. Ferriss, on the other hand, seems to prefer a more contemplative approach with his morning pages journaling, right?
Exactly. Yeah, he describes morning pages as like this meditative practice of production rather than consumption. It's all about just letting your thoughts flow onto the page. 3 pages, longhand, no judgment, no editing.
So it's kind of like clearing out the mental clutter.
Yeah.
To make space for new ideas.
Yeah, that's one of the key benefits that Ferriss highlights. It's starting your day with this focused creative practice instead of, immediately getting sucked into emails, social media, all that stuff.
Makes sense. That information overload can be rough. Now, Ferriss also talks about this meditation technique called See, Hear, Feel, developed by Shinzen Young. Have you ever heard of this one?
I have, yeah. It's known for being really accessible, really simple. Basically, you're just observing the coming and going of your sensory experiences, what you see, what you hear, what you feel, just noticing it.
Okay, so you're not trying to like empty your mind or anything like that.
No, not at all. You're just paying attention to what's happening in your body and your surroundings, cultivating this mindful awareness.
Okay, so it's about being present in the moment. That makes a lot more sense to me than some of the other, more esoteric meditation techniques out there.
Right. It's very grounded, very practical. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about success beyond the traditional career path. Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, has some interesting insights there.
Oh yeah, Hoffman. What's his take?
Well, he's really big on the importance of relationships for achieving long-term success. He believes that building strong connections with others is just as important, if not more so, than just focusing on those, short-term goals.
So it's not just about what you know, it's about who you know.
Right. And while both are important, Hoffman argues that strong relationships often open doors that just wouldn't be available otherwise. He uses the example of Scott Adams, the guy who created Dilbert.
Oh yeah, I love Dilbert.
So Adams built this huge following through his blog, which then led to book deals, speaking engagements, all sorts of opportunities.
Interesting. It's like the relationships, the connections you make can pay off in these really unexpected ways. And Hoffman also talks about this concept of anti-embler. What is that exactly?
Yeah, so it essentially means clearing the path for others. It's this idea that by helping others succeed, you're actually creating this network of goodwill and reciprocity that ultimately benefits everyone involved.
Okay, so it's not just about networking and self-promotion. It's about genuinely supporting others and contributing to their success, which then comes back to help you in a way.
Precisely. And then Damon John, the FUBU founder, the Shark Tank guy.
Oh yeah, Damon John, yeah.
He takes this idea a step further. He talks about identifying underserved markets and creating new categories to dominate.
Oh, that's interesting. It's like finding that blue ocean, right? Instead of swimming with the sharks in a crowded market.
Exactly. By carving out your own niche, meeting those unmet needs, you can really set yourself apart from the competition. Okay, now let's talk about investing. Not just in, the financial sense, but investing in yourself. Ferriss really seems to emphasize defining success on your own terms.
Yeah, it's about figuring out what actually matters to you,
Right.
not what society tells you should matter.
Right. He encourages readers to really take the time to define what success means to them, what happiness means to them, even what investing means to them.
Yeah, otherwise you end up chasing someone else's dream. And you might achieve it, but you're still not fulfilled.
Exactly. It's about creating a life that you find truly meaningful and rewarding, not just ticking off boxes on some, societal checklist. And speaking of creating a fulfilling life, Ferriss is also a big proponent of the health first philosophy.
Yeah, that seems to be a core value for him. He's willing to make sacrifices, social, even business sacrifices, to prioritize his health.
He is, yeah. Even if it means missing out on certain opportunities. He believes that without a solid foundation of, physical and mental well-being, it's really difficult to achieve anything else. It's like putting on your own oxygen mask first, before helping others.
Yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup. I like that. Now, I've heard him talk about this jar of awesome technique, too. What is that exactly?
Oh, it's really simple but really powerful. You just write down like positive experiences, accomplishments, anything that makes you feel good, and you drop it in a jar.
Okay. And then,
And then when you're feeling down, or you just need a little reminder of your progress, you can pull out a few slips and kind of relive those happy moments.
I love that. It's like a tangible way to track your wins, cultivate a positive mindset. So it's almost like a gratitude journal, but more fun.
Exactly. And speaking of positive influences, Ferriss also shares this list of most gifted books, the ones that were mentioned most often by the titans he interviewed.
Oh, that's interesting. What are some of the titles that stood out to you?
Well, surely you're joking, Mr. Feynman. By Richard Feynman is a great one. It's a memoir, really fascinating. It gives you this unique perspective on life, learning, problem solving. Feynman was a brilliant physicist.
Yeah, I've heard of him. He was a real character too, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. And his book is full of these witty anecdotes, these insights into his kind of unconventional approach to life. Another one that's highly recommended is Deep Survival by Lawrence Gonzalez. It explores the psychology of surviving these life-threatening situations.
Okay, that one sounds intense.
It is, but it's incredibly insightful. It really delves into those mental and emotional factors that influence survival, offers some valuable lessons about resilience and adaptability.
Yeah, I can see how that would be relevant to anyone, really. Even if you're not facing, a literal life or death situation, we all deal with challenges that require resilience. What's the third book on your list?
The third one is Mistakes Were Made, But Not By Me, by Carol Tavris and Elliot Aronson. It's a fascinating look at cognitive dissonance, how we justify our actions, our beliefs, even when they totally contradict the evidence.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by that kind of stuff. The way our minds work, especially when it comes to self-deception.
It's a real eye-opener, that's for sure. Okay, now, beyond the books, let's talk about some specific pieces of advice from the titans that you found valuable. What are some nuggets of wisdom that our listeners can take away and apply to their own lives?
Ooh, good question.
Well, one that I really liked was from Gabby Reese. She's a volleyball legend,
Oh, yeah, I know Gabby Reese. She's amazing.
So she has this concept of practice going first. She encourages people to be proactive in social interactions, whether it's, saying hello first, offering a compliment, initiating a conversation.
So it's about putting yourself out there, not being afraid to make the first move.
Exactly. And you'd be surprised how often people respond positively to that. Then there's Naval Ravikant, the angel investor. He has this really powerful philosophy of saying no by default.
No by default. Okay,
Yeah.
I like that. Tell me more.
Well, it's about protecting your time, your focus. We live in this world where we're constantly bombarded with demands, with distractions, and saying no can be this really powerful act of self-care.
Yeah, setting those boundaries is so important. What other advice resonated with you?
Well, Brené Brown, the vulnerability researcher, she talks about wholehearted living.
Brené Brown, yeah, I love her work.
So her work really emphasizes the importance of authenticity, self-compassion, and the courage to be seen, even in our imperfections.
So it's about embracing our vulnerability, showing up as our true selves, even when it feels scary.
Exactly. And she argues that by doing so, we actually create deeper connections and experience a greater sense of belonging.
That's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm feeling super inspired. As we move into the final part of our deep dive, what are some of the key themes, the insights that you want our listener to keep in mind?
I think the biggest takeaway from Tools of Titans is that, there really isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to success. These titans, they come from all walks of life. They've achieved success in these vastly different ways, but what they all share is this willingness to challenge conventional wisdom, to experiment, to forge their own paths.
Yeah, they're not afraid to be the black sheep.
Exactly. And that's what I hope our listeners take away from this deep dive. Don't be afraid to experiment, to challenge your assumptions, to step outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, find what works for you. Create a life that you find truly meaningful.
And remember, success is not about perfection. It's about progress. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to be the best version of yourself.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Tools of Titans. We'll be back soon with the final part of our exploration. Okay, so we've really gone deep, haven't we? I mean, we've covered so much in our deep dive into Tools of Titans.
We have, yeah. It's been a whirlwind of insights, strategies, philosophies.
From those wild health hacks to productivity tips to like a whole mental frameworks for success.
And I think what makes this book so valuable is that it it really goes beyond just offering advice, right? Like surface level stuff.
Right. It gets into the why behind the what.
Exactly. It's about understanding those underlying principles, those mindsets that really drive success.
And speaking of those principles, one thing that really struck me was how much emphasis there is on resilience.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so many of these individuals, they've faced setbacks, they've had failures along the way.
It's inevitable, right? No one just sails through life without hitting a few bumps.
Exactly, but it's how they view those experiences. They see them as opportunities for growth, for learning, not as reasons to give up.
Like Robert Rodriguez, the filmmaker, he said, "Failure is not durable."
That's such a great quote, and it's so true. It's this reminder that even when things go wrong, you can always pick yourself up and keep moving forward.
So it's about embracing that inevitability of setbacks, right? And developing that resilience to bounce back.
Exactly. And thinking back on all the habits, the routines we've discussed, what really stood out to you? What was like the most intriguing or surprising thing?
Honestly, it was the listening to a single song on repeat for focus.
Oh yeah, that one always gets people. It sounds so strange, but
it does. But I've tried it, and it actually does kind of work.
Right. It's like creating this sonic anchor that helps you, block out those distractions, get into that flow state.
And it's so simple, right? Sometimes those simplest solutions are the most effective.
Yeah, totally. Another theme that I found interesting was the emphasis on morning routines.
Oh, yeah.
Like whether it's, Tony Robbins' intense priming routine or Tim Ferriss's contemplative morning pages journaling, they all seem to recognize the importance of starting the day intentionally.
It's like setting the tone, right? For productivity, for well-being.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's the widespread embrace of meditation and mindfulness practices.
Yeah, it's fascinating how those practices have gone from being kind of fringe, esoteric, to being these mainstream tools for managing stress, improving focus.
It's true. And you see it across the board,
Yeah.
From Arnold Schwarzenegger's dedication to transcendental meditation to Tim Ferriss's exploration of all these different mindfulness techniques.
Clearly these titans, they prioritize mental well-being.
Oh, absolutely. And it's such an important reminder for all of us,
Yeah.
Taking care of your mental health is just as crucial as taking care of your physical health.
No question about it. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Tools of Titans, what's the one big takeaway you want our listener to walk away with?
I think it's that success is not a destination, it's a journey.
Okay, yeah.
It's about constantly learning, growing, experimenting, adapting.
It's about finding your own path, right? The one that resonates with you.
Exactly. It's about finding that path that aligns with your unique values, your strengths, your aspirations. There is no, one-size-fits-all formula.
Tools of Titans gives you, the tools, the insights, but it's up to you to actually use them to create that life that you find truly meaningful and fulfilling.
So to our listener, revisit those insights that really spoke to you, those things that resonated. Don't be afraid to experiment, challenge those assumptions, step outside that comfort zone.
And remember, success is not about perfection. It's about progress. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to be the best version of yourself.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into tools of titans. Until next time, keep exploring and keep pushing those boundaries of what's possible.
Welcome to the show we're in. News to share, where to begin. Free sides to every tale we tell. The truth is here, it's ringing bells. Dive in deep, let's take a look. In every twist and turn we took. For glory lies within the truth. We're chasing